It's time to start building hype for the new hot board games of 2025.
So the first step on our personal hype train is going to be GAMA Expo, which if you are listening to this the day it dropped, it's actually happening right now. For those of you here live, it's coming up next week. Now, tonight, what we're going to do is highlight the games we're excited to see for the first time, as well as give you a bit of info on what GAMA is and some other stuff we're looking forward to. Now, to go with this, we've got a couple of games to review that we actually picked up last year at GAMA Expo that we want to share information about. Both happen to feature rockets and aiming for the stars, so we kind of tied the two together. Now, I do apologize ahead of time. I am recovering from a respiratory illness and may not sound my best, and Deanna is also a little under the weather, so we may not quite be up to snuff. But we didn't want to miss any more episodes, and we wanted to tell you about GAMA before GAMA happened. So that's why we're here tonight.
Well, before that, some introductions. I'm your host, Sean, and with me we have Deanna.
Hey there to all my fellow cardboard connoisseurs.
And, of course, Mo.
Yeah, I am Mo Tuzano, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, working with you to make your game nights better.
We record this podcast live Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop, and we love it when people take part live and join us in our chat room. Now, this episode exists thanks to our Patreon patrons and, of course, our sponsor, Grand Gamers Guild.
You can find detailed show notes for this episode at tabletopbellhop.com/episode 266. That's 266. Links in our show notes may be affiliate links, which cost you nothing but help support this show.
Normally, the Tabletop Bellhop is here to answer your gaming and game night questions, though sometimes we have a topic of our own that we want to cover.
So tonight, that topic is the GAMA Expo trade show, which will be going on right now when this episode drops. Now, we did a detailed overview of GAMA and the Game Manufacturers Association and the show last year after attending. And what I don't want to cover everything again because we did a lengthy 2-part series on this last year. So what I encourage anyone who's really curious about GAMA or the GAMA Expo is check out those episodes. So it's actually episode 236, GAMA Expo 2024 recap, who should go to GAMA Expo. That's the main one. And then the episode just before that, we actually talked about the games we played at GAMA, which was 235. Now, for those of you who didn't catch that, I don't want you to not know what we're talking about tonight. So just a little bit of intro to it. So GAMA stands for Game Manufacturers Association. No, I don't know why it's just GMA. We're members, but we're not a founding member or anything like that. So I don't know why it's GMA and it's GAMA. I don't know. Game somehow has they use the first 2 letters. I don't know, whatever it is. The important part is, though, that it is a non-profit organization. That's important. It's nonprofit that supports hobby games industry. And that covers pretty much all the games we talk about on the show, going from board games to role-playing games to LARPs and so on. Pretty much any type of hobby game, trading card games.
Miniature battle, CCGs, yes. All of it.
Yep, miniature battle, CCGs, all of it. Now, the mission of GAMA is to promote the industry and the interests of everyone involved in the hobby games industry. So basically, it's your trade organization for tabletop gamers. Now, GAMA Expo is the yearly trade show that GAMA, the Game Manufacturers Association, puts on. Now, this is an insider-only event. This is aimed primarily at retailers. The big push at this is the chance for publishers to tell local game stores, comic book stores, meet with Barnes & Noble and go, this is what we've got coming out this year, and try to get pre-orders in and get the retailers and find out who's interested in everything. So that's the big push for this show. The other thing, though, is it's also a media event where a lot of big announcements happen. This is the first big con of 2025, of every year. And this is where publishers show off their plans for the year. Like I said, big game announcements and what they have coming.
So last year was our first year attending, and we had a really fantastic time. This isn't a game con. It's a trade show. It's not open to the public, and we're there to work. But I think I learned more about the ins and outs of the game industry in that 1 week than the many years that we've been working as content creators. It was fascinating.
And the two of us, Deanna and I, are going back this year. One of the things that's important to note is we were invited last year as hosted media, and we have that honor of being invited again as hosted media. which is pretty awesome. So we're going to be there to cover the show. But to be purely honest, if we weren't hosted media, we would still go to GAMA Expo. It was that useful, that enjoyable, and that great an experience last year that I would still be going to this even if we weren't, getting media passes basically to go to it. Now, what we're hoping to do is even more networking than last year, and I am really looking forward to both meeting with the publishers we already have relationships with and just, saying hi and touching base, as well as making connections with new publishers and new people. One of the big things I was surprised last year was just how much information and education that happened between us and retailers. And I'm looking forward to making more of those connections this year as well. Now, the reason we're talking about this tonight, because I'm assuming, I bet you we have a mix of people listening to the podcast that are insiders and people who are on the outside and are just gamers. But for the gamers who listen to us, the people who aren't insiders, this is going to be the first look for many people, the first time we'll get to see new stuff from publishers. Again, this is the first major event of the year, and this is where new announcements come up. Like we got to hear all about Altered in Star Wars Unlimited before it was on shelves last year, which was pretty cool. So what we want to talk about tonight, what we thought would be most interesting to our listeners, is to share what we know is going to be there that we are hyped about, what we're excited about. There are going to be a ton of games at GAMA Expo. We're going to highlight the ones that have us personally excited.
Yeah, it's like a behind the scenes look at us discussing the games and then creating our short list of must-sees.
So getting right to that, again, go back to our last year's episodes if you want to know more about GAMA and GAMA Expo, and come back in a couple weeks and you'll get to hear what we thought of this show. But the first game on my list that I want to check out is Pergola. Now, this is one from Rebel Studios, who we've worked with in the past. We've done reviews of their stuff and enjoyed almost everything Rebel's ever sent us. And it's being published by Asmodee because, of course, Asmodee owns everyone, including Rebel Studios. This is a game about building gardens where everyone is building their own garden, and you're going to pick a tool and then garden items. And then you're going to place the items into your like growing garden and then use your tools. And as far as I can tell, there's not a lot of info out on this game yet. It's one of those games like Tiny Towns or Dolce, where you have the same input. So whoever picks the tool and the items, everyone is going to be using those same items and tools. And then by the end of the game, you should have your own unique garden. And I really dig, I don't even know what I've heard those called bingo games, where like one player is pulling the ball and everyone else has to use it, right? So I'm going to use that term. I really dig every bingo game I played. So I am really looking forward to seeing just how much depth there is to this game and how cool it is. The components I've seen look fantastic.
And it's Rebel Studios, so that's the people that did Malem and Chronicles of Avel.
Avel, yep.
Yeah, so it's probably more family weight.
Yes.
Yeah, lighter game. Cool.
It looks like a lighter game, but again, it looks kind of like an Azuli abstract game too. So lighter is not always a bad thing.
One small note: it's just pergola, not pergola. Pergola is it's the actual the wooden frame over top of the garden is a pergola.
All right, sure.
I watch a lot of do-it-yourself home gardening type TV shows.
Pergola. All right. The name makes more sense now. I assumed it was some gardening term I didn't know.
All right. I'm looking at Galactic Cruise. We've got Ian O'Toole art, game trays, inserts. It's slick looking. I like the theme. You're building luxury rockets to send vacationers off into space. It's from Kinson Key Games, and no, I've never heard of them before either.
No.
This is a Kickstarter that is just starting to show up at people's houses as of the end of January, and I am totally intrigued.
So interesting. Galactic Cruise does have a couple of expansions already for this game, I assume because it was a Kickstarter. And their other big game was Delavirus, which came out in 2020. So this is one I'm not aware of. It looks like it's a reasonably small print type thing. So maybe another small Kickstarter, but that's the only other actual title they've got is Delavirus.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard of this company before, but like when I saw this game, I was like, oh, it's a Vital Lacerda Ian O'Toole game from Eagle Griffin. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it's not actually. Okay. It very much to me looks like an Eagle Griffin game. And that's a good thing. And based on the ratings on Board Game Geek so far, it's got a weight of almost 8. So I've got to say it probably does go into that grouping of games, right? Where you're Vinhost Deluxe and...
say a weight of almost 4?
A weight of almost 4, not 8.
Yes.
A weight of 8. That'd be
a weight of 8 would be impressive.
5.
Yes.
One heck of a game. Yeah, no, it did. It had that look to it, and that's what drew me to it. I was like, this game looks appealing.
Interesting. There are actually 6 other publishers linked with this game, including Super Meeple, who we do know more familiar with. So it's interesting. They seem to really be some major agreement for worldwide distribution, I assume.
Yeah. I must have done well. I just the theme sounds cool. I'm looking forward to that one. Next, I grouped mine just the way I looked at it was by publisher, because that's how the first list I looked at grouped things by publisher. I know Sean and Dee kind of did their own thing, so I'm going to group things by publisher, and I'm going to go with 25th Century Games, who great people. We've met them at previous GAMA and at Origins, always got along well. Never actually worked with them, though. I don't think we've reviewed any of their games, but what I'm hyped about are 2 games. One is Diatoms, and the other is Wine Cellar. Now, Diatoms is another puzzly tile drafting, pattern building game in that whole, Azul abstract strategy game universe, with a neat theme of atoms and atomic mass and stuff like that. That one looked cool. Now, Wine Cellar, I'm really curious about, because yes, it's another winemaking game. There are a lot of winemaking games. Vinhost Deluxe is one of my favorite games. Viticulture is also a fantastic game. The difference is those are both heavy games. Like Vinhost being lighter than Viticulture being lighter than Vinhost. This is a light game. This is basically like a winemaking party game. It's got a weight of only 1.88. But this one's out in the market already. It's got an 8.6 on Board Game Geek, which I got to say, that's pretty good. And it's got Vincent Dutrade art. Playtime's only 20 minutes, though. So what I'm hoping is it's one of those thinky fillers, one of those short games with a big punch.
You lost me at winemaking party game. I am not the target audience.
See, I don't think that's it. I don't know. Is it a party game or is it a 20-minute heavy thinker? And I can't tell. Right? So that's why I want to check it out. The other thing they're announcing this year is a Raw expansion. Now, sadly, I don't see that on our list for the Media First Look, so I don't know if it's going to be there. What I need to know is it going to work with the classic edition of Raw? Because that's what I have. I have the old Aaliyah Mayfair version. I think it was Mayfair, or it might be Rio Grande. But I have the old Aaliyah version of Raw. And the game has been updated many times since then. And the new 25th Century Edition is very pretty with awesome, huge pieces and stuff. But I don't want to have to buy the new version of Raw to use the expansion. But the fact that like Raw, a game from near 2000, has an expansion coming out like 25 years later fascinates me. I want to know what they added to Raw.
All right. I've actually got one from 25th Century Games as well. And that's Vanity Plates. And it's spelled VNTYPL8S. Much like the old Bumper Stumpers game, for those of you old enough to remember that 80s TV game show, Bumper Stumpers. It's a fun 3 to 8 player 20-minute party game, obviously, where you are trying to figure out, interesting vanity plates. And it's got an interesting. You're actually creating your vanity plates.
Yeah,
it's from a source. So it's a fun little word game, and I think it's one of those games that could be the sort of hit that we have at public play events, even if it's not the kind of brain burner that we all necessarily love to play together.
Now, the last one I have from 25th Century, just to jump back in, because I got one more from them, is a new Avatar game, Avatar Journey of Aang. This is this is a different company. Sorry, this is Bad Crow Games. My bad. I've got it grouped in my notes, but it's another one that I want to take a look at. Sorry, that is Avatar Journey of Aang from Bad Crow Games. And that's just because my kids love Avatar, and we actually watched the entire series together when they were kids. This looks like a cooperative card management game. It's got some abstract things going on. It's got a map of the world, and you're going to take on the Fire Nation. It looked pretty neat. But like I said, mainly that one's for my kids' sake. I want to go, hey, is this another licensed game that's great, or is this another licensed game where it's okay, but it's Avatar?
All right. I've never watched Avatar, which I know I'm remiss, but A press release for this dropped into my mailbox this morning, and I have to say, it actually totally intrigued me. And until then, it was not on my radar at all. What I've got up next is a game from the Op. Now, this is called Tea Witches. It's from Manny Vega, who is the guy that did Flamecraft.
Oh,
it's the same artist, too, which is Sandara Tang. And I don't know, it's just a cute aesthetic. There's not a lot of info out there. It's labeled as a push your luck tile placement, worker placement game. And I'm thinking maybe Quacks of Quedlinburg-like. I'm curious. I want to take a look at it. I mean, I was curious enough that I started hunting down photos of people demoing the prototype at PAX. I was like looking at pictures and trying to figure it out. And I'm like, nah, I definitely got to go check this game out.
Perks and Potions is from Moon Saga Workshop. Now, this is a dice game with a cool theme of using botanical alchemy to heal wildlife. The ratings and reviews so far are ridiculous, but I do worry again, this one might be a bit too light. It only has age 8+ and a 15 to 30 minute playtime, but it does look like something that might be great at our brewery events.
Yeah, I got to be honest and tell you, I looked at that one and I had vetoed it, but I will follow. I will follow in your lead, sir.
Yeah, this
Fair
one.
enough.
Interestingly, the thing that catches my eye is that this players roll dice to discover flowers. As I'm like this, there could be a whole lot of randomness in that one, which again might be all right with a public event, but probably something gamers are going to shy away from.
Cephalofair Games is going to be at GAMA Expo showing off Gloomhaven. I got berated today on Facebook, so I guess I'm not supposed to call it Gloomhaven 2nd Edition anymore.
No, you weren't supposed to call it Gloomhaven 2.
Gloomhaven Revised.
It is Gloomhaven 2nd Edition, not Gloomhaven 2.
It's neither. It's just Gloomhaven. That's what I was told by a Cephalofair rep this morning. So we're only allowed to call it Gloomhaven. So what people may not know is Gloomhaven is meant to be an evergreen game and will stay on the shelves. The difference is if you go buy it soon, it will be different than the copy I own. So they are updating Gloomhaven to play smoother, have more balanced characters, and most importantly, make the characters totally compatible with every other game that has Gloomhaven on the box, so you can take your character between them easier. Now, when we were first showed they told us it was Gloomhaven 2. Then we were told it's Gloomhaven 2nd Edition, so that people don't think it's a new game. Now I'm told it's Gloomhaven. You won't notice a difference. Just suddenly someone will buy it and it'll be the new edition, and that'll be what's on store shelves. So I don't know, seems a little confusing to me. But the point is that Gloomhaven is going to get better. It's going to have a new ending, and there's going to be like 50 new missions mixed in, and every single character class has been rebalanced.
So compatible with Frosthaven, compatible with Jaws of the Lion. That's cool.
Yes. And compatible with whatever comes next. It's supposedly the big thing was things have changed a lot in Frosthaven, and we knew there was a big change in Jaws of the Lion. This balances it. From what I have been told, the original printing of Gloomhaven, which we have, you do not want to take your characters and go play Frosthaven.
They are just I was there when you were. That was explained to you, and yes, the naming convention is really strange choice, but I don't know.
Like now it's just a new printing of Gloomhaven that happened to update some rules, I guess is what they are. But
they haven't changed anything about what they're reworking or what's new about the game. They've just changed how they're referring to it for the title. I mean, the what's in the box has not changed since we were talking about this a year ago.
Nope.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm almost wondering if I'd rather grab this and start from there, if we're going to start playing Gloomhaven again instead of repicking up our previous game, right?
Yeah, to be honest, I would probably do that. I would pick up they even said it won't even say anything on the box to show it's the new edition. So I don't know if there's going to be a cutoff point where they tell all the game stores to send back the old copies, or is Gloomhaven totally out of print right now? I don't know. It
is out of print as far as I know. Like I haven't seen it around for a while when I'm doing the chasing the deals stuff.
Right.
All right. I'm going to move on. Here's my next pick. Shackleton Base, A Journey to the Moon. Now, this is Pandasaurus. I think they're localizing this one for North America. I like the look of the board. Like this game just looks appealing to me. It's a worker placement game where you're building a moon base. It did come out in 2024. It's already got over 800 ratings on BGG with over an 8.1. So I'm not the only one that thinks it looks neat.
So this one's interesting because there was an English version from Sorry We Are French, but Pandasaurus is now has now taken over the English version, I guess. I'm not familiar enough with Sorry We Are French, who are a French Parisian publisher, as to what they do, and because they do have English games. I don't know the story behind that, but apparently yes, now Pandasaurus has the North American license.
Yeah, and I don't know, because Mo really wanted to only focus on games that were new for this year, but I'm like, it's new enough. I've never seen it before.
One I am super hyped to see is Luthier from Paverson Games. That is the latest game from David Beck, who is the owner of Paverson and the designer of Distilled. And I want to see if lightning strikes twice. Really, that's the big thing. Is Distilled is fantastic. It is still one of the best newer games that I've ever played, and I feel so bad we still haven't had time to dive into the expansions. But and Distilled, there's new content coming for it too. But Luthier is his newest game. When we saw it last, it was literally laminated sheets of paper and David going, yeah, like you'd put a worker here, right? Like it was so unfinished. So I am looking forward to see where it's come and what it looks like now. Now, this is a heavier game, and it's about creating musical instruments for patrons using worker placement. And this part scares me a bit, hidden bidding. Bidding is not something I would have liked in Distilled, so we'll have to see. And I know Deanna's not as much a fan of bidding, and Sean is actually opposed to bidding. So, like I said, my big thing is let's see if David's got us another hit. I want to know if he can make two fantastic games. Hopefully, he's not just a one-hit wonder, and I doubt he is.
To be fair, hidden bidding isn't as bad as just a straight-up auction.
Right.
Auctions are bad.
Right.
Hidden biddings are...
Like, Distilled is one of my favorite games. It is a perfect game. It is a 5 out of 5. I cannot wait to get my hands on Luthier, even if it's just for a demo. I can't wait to check it out.
Well, and to be fair...
And the art and everything that we had seen for it was also, it was nice. It was top notch. And it's a period piece. It's not modern, if that didn't come across when Mo was talking.
And speaking of the art, Vincent Dutray is one of the artists. So...
Yep.
Clearly, Vincent Dutray is a robot because he doesn't sleep. I don't know how this person is making that much art for that many games. It's wild.
Next, a very fun publisher, Kurt Covert and Smirk and Dagger Games. I am just looking forward to meeting Kurt again and hanging out with him because just Kurt's awesome and hilarious and has so much energy. But he's going to be showing off a place for all my books. And if you're on Facebook, you've seen this game because, man, he must have spent a fortune on ads for the Kickstarter for this game. I've got it from Kurt himself that this was their most successful Kickstarter ever from Smirk and Dagger, best they've ever done. Now, this is a cozy game with a fantastic theme that I think all three of us can relate to. It's about placing your books onto shelves. I am also... it just looks great. I honestly have kind of avoided looking too much into this game because I want Kurt to explain it to me because Kurt is so good at teaching his games. The other thing I'm looking forward to from Smirk and Dagger is they have a new one called Enthrone, which is a 2-player deduction game. So I am looking forward for more info on that.
I don't know. Smirk and Dagger just continues to pleasantly surprise me. Enthrone doesn't really intrigue me that much, but I am more than willing to give it a look. And A Place for All My Books is definitely on my must-see list. And yes, in my Facebook feed, constantly.
It's interesting because A Place for All My Books reminds me a little bit of it's a puzzly game in the way that the home layout game we've recently played.
Decorum, yeah.
It's very much in that sort of game, which works for books. I mean, that just kind of feels right. Yep. So again, I'm looking at it and I'm going, wow, that's not what I would look at. But then I read it and I'm like, and knowing it's Smirk and Dagger, I'm like, oh no, this is probably really good. Even if the general vibe of the game doesn't seem like something that would draw me in, I'd walk past it on a store shelf and never blink twice.
I think there was part of it was being an introvert and having to work up enough energy to want to go out and get more books. I think that's built into the game.
Which is pretty awesome. I wonder if he'll have the follow up the place for all my games, because someone can come to my house and help with that one, because we have that problem. That one's a little closer to home. Actually, we had the problem with books and games. The problem is the books and the games take up the same shelves and they compete for space.
You think they do, and yet the books are not moving.
Sorry, I'm checking something really quick because I thought I might have typoed something. Yes, I did. So Ape Games is showing off a game called Ilvion, but it's like season 3. So this is a game that's been out for a while. It's been out since 2018. Not something that ever caught my attention before, but because it was on the media preview list, I went and kind of dove into this game. And I got to say, it looks interesting because it's a deck builder. And as far as I can tell, it means deck builder like a deck builder, like Robot Quest Arena or Clank, not pre-constructed decks or constructing ahead of time. And this is a 2-player fighting game, kind of like your Magic, but more so like Dice Throne, where you each pick your character, you battle against each other, and supposedly you're going to build your deck as you play, having multiple different card choices and play styles. Now, there are a ton of these out, and they're only showing off the newest one. But just how much I've enjoyed Dice Masters and Kapow and games like that lately, I am really curious to check this out and give Ivion. Sorry, I keep putting an L in there. It's Ivion, Ivion. The hero crafting card game. That is the full title. I'm really curious about this one. I may look at it and go, no, you know what? That's not for me, because I'm not always a huge fan of 2-player dueler games, or it might just be fantastic because you all know how much we love deck builders, Sean and I in particular. So I am looking forward to checking that one out. I don't know if anyone else has played it. If anyone in the chat has played Ivion, I would love to hear about it.
I like that tagline, hero crafting. That draws me in.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sort of glancing over some of it right now. It looks pretty solid if they've done it well. Like, the concepts are great. So it's just a matter of, but I mean, you expect it's been around since 2018, so clearly they're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, people like this game.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I felt, right? If they have 3 new expansions coming out, it must be pretty good. Going the opposite way from 2-player games to 1-player games, and it's odd that I'm even talking about this, but I want to look at Hercules and the 12 Labors. Now, the reason for that is this is the latest game from Envyborn Games. And while we've enjoyed everything else Envyborn has done, and games like Sirens, I actually preferred the single-player rules, the solo rules, to the 2-player rules. So this is just because a publisher has impressed me in the past. I'm not usually a solo player. I don't know if this will win me over, but you know what? Envyborn won me over with their other games, so I want to check out their latest.
Yeah, I'm not super hyped about a solo game. Normally this would be a pass for me, but again, I like what Envyborn has been doing with their small box games. I like the Greek myth theming. I'm a sucker for that. And they handled it really well with Sirens. So, yeah, we need to check this one out.
Next one kind of goes to GAMA last year. So GAMA Expo 2024, we got to see a prototype of Citizens of the Spark from Thunderworks Games. Well, now they've got the finished version, and it will be available to demo. So I am looking forward to trying that. Now, this has, I don't know what to call this mechanic. And the game I know it from the most, and Sean's played this, is Deus, where you're getting new cards, and when you get a new card, it goes in your tableau. But every time you buy the same type of card, it goes in the same column, and that makes all of the cards in that column better. Gizmos is another example of a game that does this. I don't know what you would call that. So tableau
Board Game
builder.
Geek,
I don't know.
Board Game Geek puts that under the mechanism of melding and splaying.
Okay.
I learned something new today. I've never heard that before.
Melding
and splaying are the two.
Splaying's got to be for the game innovation only, because that's a different one where you make a stack of cards, you display them left or right, but it ends up doing the same thing where you're putting similar types of cards together that make them better. So I am looking forward to checking that one out. Citizens of the Spark already look good. Sean's going to hate it because it's animal characters, because he doesn't like anthropomorphism in his games, but it looks solid to me. The other thing they're showing off is Emerald Skulls, which is a push your luck dice game, and it's got cool looking components. I didn't do a lot of research into that one, but I figure if I'm going to go see Thunderworks anyway, I'll have them show us both.
Yeah, and Push Your Luck dice game I can pass on, but Citizens of the Spark was already on my list. I'm excited to see the final version. When I got to look at it last year, it looked really cool.
So, and I have to say, Citizens of the Spark is doing something. They aren't like, this doesn't necessarily mean Earth. It could be alien. Mm-hmm. So they aren't just cheaping out and not using, finding an artist who can't do human but can do animals. So I'm not completely against it. It's not just furries replacing humans.
Sorry, folks. Next one, I'm not going to check out. Inside Up Games is showing off their new game Perch. This is an area control game about birds trying to find the best perches. It looks fantastic. But I expect we're going to get to play this one at Adam, which is the next convention, next gaming thing we're going to at the Gamers Ranch. So I'm actually going to skip by that one because we'll get to see it in about 2 weeks.
I swear they had a prototype copy of this out on their table out at the GAMA Expo media event last year. I'm 97% certain this is the game I'm thinking of. I don't know. At the time, it didn't appeal to me for some reason. But Inside Up Games has a lovely track record, so I'm going to give it a shot.
Now, it's very similar to Citizens of the Spark, another game that we got to see a prototype of that was all like printed off and shoved into card sleeves, was Rebel Princesses from Bezier. Now, I am looking forward to checking that out, though that's not actually what they're showing off. What they are showing off is the newly announced expansion, Happily Never After. Now, we talked about this one a lot on the our GAMA coverage from last year. This is a new version of Hearts. So if anyone has played the traditional card game Hearts, it swaps things around. So you're actually playing a rebel princess, and the hearts represent your suitors, and you don't want your suitors. You don't want suitors. You're a rebel princess. You're not all for that. So that actually sounded really cool. It's Hearts with different things that can change the rules. And the main reason I want to see this is I love Hearts. Of all of the traditional playing card games, there's euchre and spades and poker. Hearts was my game growing up. That was the game I most enjoyed playing. So I am really looking forward to checking out Rebel Princesses from Bezier, and I'll let them tell me about the expansion too.
It's a small thing, but I'm pretty sure we checked this out at Origins, at the media event at Origins.
I don't remember seeing the expansion.
And not GAMA last year. Not the expansion, but I think that's when we were looking at Rebel Princesses.
Oh, the
Just
original.
If you're going back and you're trying to find us talking about it in detail, you're not going to find it in the episode you think you are.
Okay, sorry. It might have been our Origins 2024 recap then. You know what? The media events were so similar at those that I get confused.
Mm-hmm.
So sticking with Bezier, I've got a bone to pick with Bezier. You can shake your fist at them for me when you see them at GAMA, because I was going down the list of games at GAMA, and Bezier's got this adorable looking game that features an otter being all cute and cuddly on the cover called Silver Eye. And it's a game about werewolves attacking your village, and there's no, I can't find anything even remotely otterish about this game. So I have no idea why there's an otter on the cover.
Where are otters? Obviously.
So I total bait and switch. I'm very upset with Bezier because of the otter on the cover of Silver Eye.
All right. So Silver is a series of games. Bezier is the company that produces Werewolf, the traditional game that comes out. They do Ultimate Werewolf, Deluxe Ultimate Werewolf, Werewords, One Night Ultimate Werewolf. They are the werewolf company. And Silver was their 18-card love letter knockoff that was Werewolf. And like love letter knockoffs, they put out new versions every couple of years with a new set of cards. And I have to assume in this particular set, there's an otter as one of the things that is one of the cards, the 18 cards. If you look, there's also a tiger, and there's like a giraffe with a weird twisted neck. As I'm not a fan of social deduction games, and Werewolf in particular, I've never tried any of the Silver games. Now, I have been told by many people I should give it a shot because it's not full on werewolf and favoritism doesn't matter and there's not as much lying and so on. So I don't know what the otter part plays in it, but Silver is a long-standing game series, and new cards for Silver is good for Silver fans.
Fair enough. Now, keeping up, I'm just going to jump back in the alphabet a little bit here as we've been sort of jumping around through publishers, and I'm going to go to All Play, who has come up with a game called Alibis. Now, this one caught my eye specifically because in our previous episodes, when we were reviewing the game Dubious, I said, well, why don't we have a superhero-esque version of Dubious? Well, this isn't quite that, but it's pretty close. So this is a whodunit lineup of supervillains where you're trying to, find out who the true criminal is amongst the players. It is a party game, 20-minute round party game sort of thing, but 2 to 6 players, and it has the superhero theme. So we're like halfway there. So I'd be interested in seeing how Alibis plays. Apparently it re-implements a Japanese game that goes by Nigochi.
Okay, cool. We'll have to keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, that's not one that caught my eye when I was flipping through, but yeah, we'll have to. It was All Play is the publisher on that one. So yeah, we'll definitely hit the All Play booth at some point because All Play makes all kinds of great games. Speaking of people who make all kinds of great games, especially family games, Fireside Games do family-friendly games. The one most people are going to know, of course, is Castle Panic. Their latest hit from last year was Ultimatch, which we brought home and reviewed. So we have worked with them in the past. But the big thing they are pushing this year is Please Don't Burn My Village. This is a card game about bribing a dragon to spare your village. A lightweight, half-an-hour playtime, fun sounding. There's some push your luck mechanics that if you push the dragon too far, they're going to attack. It's set in the same setting as Castle Panic, so I always appreciate when a publisher keeps all their games in the same universe. Hopefully, it's not as easy to win as Ultimatch. That's my only worry with this one. Fireside
and not as difficult to win as Castle Panic.
Yeah, true. Good point. Mainly, I'm looking at this one as someone who hosts public play events here in Windsor. Right, Fireside makes fantastic games for those type of events, beer and pretzels nights, especially at a brewery. So also great for families. Just my kids are old enough now. We play other games.
So this one looks solid. Right now, it's only rated a weight of 1, but it is suggesting that there is more interaction and less random luck than a lot of set collection games. So that's an interesting comment on the game.
Okay. For my next choice, I've got Conservas. This is a solo bag builder. I know. I said I don't like solo games, but something about the look of this game, I just find it so appealing. And it's a solo bag builder. I can't think of too many other games that fall into that niche. And the theme is about fishing and selling tinned fish, which I find to be a neat theme. I realize I'm weird here. You also need to balance your relationship with the ocean. If you overfish, you're going to lose. It sounds cool. I want to check it out. It was originally a Kickstarter and it was picked up by 25th Century Games.
Yeah, I think in general, 25th Century is going to be a good booth to be at. There's a number of things. Another couple of that caught my eye from them were Diatoms and Grand Central Spaceport, who also didn't, hook me, but that were sort of like, ooh, those could be interesting.
Yeah, Diatoms was one I mentioned earlier. I do want to check that one out. All right, Bellhop trivia time. I met Kat of KTOR or Kat and Tori at a game night where she taught me how to play Boss Monster. And I got to say, I've always kind of had a soft spot for that game. Well, there's a new edition of Boss Monster, Super Boss Monster, coming from Brotherwise Games. Now, I'm planning on checking that out just to see how the game's evolved, because that's been out for quite some time, and I always kind of enjoyed it. There's a neat puzzly feel, and I dig the 8-bit graphics, but it's not too heavy, right? And while the other thing I need to check out, and that is just purely because of hype from other people, is the Mistborn deck builder. My gosh, are people excited about this game? Now, I've never read Mistborn or any other Sanderson's books. I have no idea how much it ties to the books, but I do dig deck builders, especially fantasy deck builders. Some of my favorite games are fantasy deck builders. So, yeah, I want to check that out. And the only reason it's premiering at the con is because it's already sold out everywhere. So it's on its next print run. Wow. Now, the other thing that caught me about the Mistborn deck builder is it's from John DeClaire. So this is the maker of Space Base and Cubitos and Mystic Vale. While not knowing Sanderson or Mistborn, I do love that designer. So I am looking forward to checking those out.
So next up, I've got from Nerdy Pup Games. Super Squad High. Yep, look at me. Pick another superhero game. So this one hits pretty close to a topic and a theme that I have gone on about many, many times. And this is teenage superheroes. This, however, is a board game, not an RPG. It's a cooperative teenage superhero board game where there is a crime wave and you are trying to save the day, but also keep up your grades, make friends, and, have relationships. I don't know if I'm actually the demographic for this game. In particular, there is a narrative dating mechanism that they have in this game, which suggests that it may not be quite right for me. But it does sound fun, and I would really like to see what they've done with it and know more about the game that is Super Squad High.
Yeah, I had this one flagged because a board game about teen superheroes managing their work-life balance. I'm like, Sean won't be with us, but clearly we need to check this one out for him.
Yeah, I wasn't sure on that one. It was the narrative dating mechanism and the hooking up rules and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want that, though.
It's a board game. How far could it take it?
Well, it did say narrative dating.
Okay. Next up, we got Good Games Publishing. They're putting out an expansion for Land vs. Sea. It's called Land vs. Sea Uncharted. The blurb says new tiles, new ways to score, and really that's all I needed to hear. I'm sold. This is a must-have for me because I love the base game so much.
Now, the Good Games also has a heavier long game, one called Cyprus. This is about mercenaries trying to escape dystopia and finding paradise in the floating cities above, which is just something that immediately made me think of so many different animes. I don't know what it is with animes with the floating cities that drop their junk on the poor people below being a theme. But it's a theme I like in anime with Battle Angel Atlia, for example. This one just looked really cool. There's not a lot of info on it, but we like the medium heavier games. We've had Good Games Publishing is one of those publishers where there's very little they produce that we have not enjoyed. The surfing game just wasn't for me, but it was still a solid game. So I am looking forward to checking out Cyprus.
All right. Master of Orion from Archon Studio. Remember Master of Orion, the board game, which came out in 2016? This is not that. It is a 4X game. I am cautiously optimistic that they will have actually captured the feel of the video game with this one.
Yeah, this one, the full name is actually Master of Orion Ad Astra to separate it from Master of Orion, the board game, and Master of Orion Conquest, and all the promos for Master of Orion, the board game. This one looks great. If I remember, this was crowdfunded. It looked good on crowdfunding, and I was tempted even then. I'm hoping we have a Moo game that feels like a Moo game. Play to Z. Speaking of 4X space exploration games, should have a playable copy of Ascending Empires there. Unfortunately, though, I didn't see them on the media preview list, so I don't know if this is something we'll get to touch. Hopefully I can just convince Zev to give us a review copy and then we can touch it when we get it home, because this is a sci-fi 4X fairly heavy flicking game. It's a dexterity sci-fi game where you actually have to flick your ships to land on planets. You have to actually hit the planet, and space combat involves flicking things. I got to preview this last year. Gone is the old puzzle fit board, replaced by a beautiful neoprene mat with holes in it that you put the planets in so they don't get bumped around. Oh, I am super hyped about the latest version of Ascending Empires. And again, that one has a tag to go with it, so you don't confuse it with the last one, which I'm going to look up really quick.
Shocked. Mo is hooked on a flipping game with a neoprene mat. Shocking.
I'm like 4X. Sci-fi, yeah. Oh, this game sounds like, let's see how many times we can get Deanna to curse within a 45-minute period.
So it's Ascending Empire Zenith Edition is the full name for that one, if anyone wants to do any additional research. Designed by Ian Cooper.
All right.
Arcane Wonders is showing off Freedom 5, a Sentinel Comics board game, which I have to look at because it's Sentinels. It's Sentinel Comics. It's Sentinels in the Multiverse. I have enjoyed everything with the word Sentinels in it that I have played so far. And while for Sean's sake, this is a new superhero game.
Although, to be fair, it's not exactly a new game. So this is a reimplementation or the next version of the Defenders of the Realm series of games. It just happens to be featuring amazing IP with Sentinels and, well, superheroes. So, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for people who don't know, it's actually a derivative of Pandemic going all the way back, because Defenders of the Realm was the fantasy version of Pandemic featuring artwork from Larry Elmore, which was the big push.
And
which actually, there's a new edition of that coming, which I don't know if that's out yet or if we'll get to see that.
And as for popularity, the Freedom 5 game was funded 2,185% on its backer.
Yeah, it looks good. I gotta say, it looks good. All right, next, Burnt Island Games. A very memorable meeting with them. At Origins last year, we got to see an early look at a game called How to Save a World. And I am looking forward to seeing how that game's progressing. I think they're going to have the finished version of GAMA Expo. So that is something that a cooperative game about saving the world before a giant meteor crashes into it that looked really cool. And then there's Layers. We've told the Layers story many times now. This is a 2-player only dungeon building game where you get a bunch of walls and monsters and you have a screen up between the players and you each build your own dungeon, and then you switch and you explore each other's dungeon, but like you don't get to see, like it's all hidden information. And to be fair, it reminds me of like an old handheld Dungeons and Dragons game I had years ago that I used to play with my dad. So that has me excited. That looked great at the time, and it was a super prototype when we got to see it. And I'll never forget Sean holding up, wait for it, and he held up boxes showing that you would unlock things, because it's got a legacy element that every time you finish a game, I don't know if it's every time, but as you play the game, you will unlock more boxes with more things to put in the dungeons, and there's actual progression, and you can level up your heroes. And I am super hyped for Layers. We saw it before the Kickstarter was even live, and that Kickstarter went bonkers.
Yeah, I am extremely excited for both of these games, and I promise I won't bring any form of beverage with me to any meetings with.
I think you should bring him coffee. I think that's what you need to do.
All right. I've got Castle Raisers from Wonderful World Board Games. It's not a company I'm familiar with. I snuck a peek at some images on Board Game Geek, and it's a tile laying game where you overlay tiles and build upwards to build castle walls. So it just sounded kind of interesting, something unique. Want to check it out in person?
Yeah, nice short, quick one here, because I didn't do a lot of research, but Ravensburger is going to be showing off the new D&D version of Horrified. Yes, Dungeons and Dragons Horrified. You know, like where the monsters are beholders and displacer beasts. Come on, we love Horrified, and it's D&D. I got to check that out.
Ravensburger is also putting out another Minecraft game. They clearly still have the IP, and this one is Minecraft Labyrinth, which again is apparently playing like the original Labyrinth, but with the Minecraft theme. So you've got your pickaxe and such.
You got to back it up and let me check out the Greek myth Horrified before we move on to D&D.
You don't have to play them in order. They're not compatible.
I don't care. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they did in Labyrinth to make it Minecraft specific. Because Labyrinth is a classic game, right? It's the Ravensburger's Labyrinth. That there are a million different versions. My kids still have both Labyrinth and Master of Labyrinth and play it now and then. It's a classic game, but like the fact there's pickaxes makes me wonder, like, can you hammer through a wall or something? It'd be interesting to see what the differences are.
Apparently you can. Once per game, you can hammer through a wall.
There you go. That was my guess just looking at it. So I guess I know my game there. Oh, I was bad and didn't note down the publisher. Oh, I think it's North Star Games.
It's right there. Keep reading.
Okay. Sorry. Nature from North Star Games. This is the latest game in this series that started with Endangered. Endangered ended up being a way better game than I thought it would be. That's not right. Endangered is Grand Gamers Guild.
Yeah, no, this re-implements Evolution and Evolution.
Evolution. Thank you. Evolution. That's why I'm reading this and it's wrong. That's why I was trying to look up the publisher. All right, let's try that a second time. Nature is the latest game from North Star Games in the Evolution series of games. Now, I only owned the first Evolution game, but I really liked that game. That's the game about evolving species where you have to worry about how much food you have, and you have basic species, and you play trait cards on them, and like you can make carnivores, but then your carnivores might eat your other species, and there was point scoring. Really solid game. I really enjoyed. And what I'm really curious about is that game has been around for a long time, and this is supposed to be the new version. And I want to see how it's evolved. I want to see what they've done to improve Evolution, because I liked Evolution. I can only assume Nature is going to be even better.
By their own words, it's more streamlined, more forgiving, deeper, and easily expandable. There is already a poll up with 30 different options for future expansions beyond the initial box.
See, at first that sounds bad, and then you throw in deeper, and I'm like, see, there, that's right, quicker, easier. I'm like, don't make it a party game, please. And then once they say deeper, I'm like, no, I think it's going to be solid.
Yeah, no, color me intrigued. I had missed that one. That's good. Good catch. I am looking at Cyclades Legendary Edition, which is coming out from Hachette, which is another localization for North America, I believe. It already has an 8.7 rating on BGG. There's a Greek god theme. It's an auction area control game. I don't always care for auction games, so it's a solid maybe for me, but I want to check it out. I want to see it in person.
The sad part about that one is Deanna doesn't even know that it's downstairs on the shelf near her.
Wow. Okay. Well, see,
I would admit we don't own the Legendary Edition.
Because I went and looked at it on Board Game Geek and looked at pictures of it and read all about it to decide to put it in this list. So
now I admit we do not have the Legendary Edition. We have the original edition. The Legendary Edition includes expansions, and it's been rebalanced and tweaked. So I am slightly curious about this, but the fact Deanna didn't remember we own the original is why it didn't make my list tonight.
I don't think I've ever played it. There is a certain time period there when you were acquiring games and I was busy doing childcare. I didn't necessarily play everything.
You've definitely played this one.
Oh, fine. I just have holes in my brain. Go on.
Good. Like I said, this isn't a Legendary Edition. Looking at the pictures, the board's completely different. It's using the Archipelagos expansion. Like, this does look like an awesome release, and I actually liked Cyclades. It was the follow-up to Kemet. It was the second Folk on a Map game that followed up Kemet, and then the third being the one with the Ankh, I think was the next one.
I never cared for Kemet.
Yeah, I know you didn't like Kemet, and Cyclades was compatible. You could use the monsters for one and the other. Anyway. Moving on, the cyber fan in me is forced to go check out Cyberpunk Edge Runner's Combat Zone because it's a game about playing cyberpunk gangs taking down Arasaka. And as someone who played and ran many games of Cyberpunk 2020, any game that has the word Arasaka in it already catches my attention, and trying to take them down sounds awesome. This one is coming from Monster Fight Club. And based on the pictures I've seen, it looks like there might be two different editions of this where you can get miniatures or you can get standees, and those standees look nice.
So, go ahead, Dee, sir.
Is this a board game or is it a miniature skirmish game?
No, this is a board game.
So there are two different games. So there is Cyberpunk Edge Runner's Combat Zone, which is the current game coming out, which has stand-ups trademarked. Acrylic standees, which look gorgeous. Absolutely.
Yes, they do. But they really do.
There is another game, which is Cyberpunk Red Combat Zone game, which is an earlier game, which I believe has miniatures and doesn't have the acrylic stand-ups. So, and they're completely compatible. So I think what you may be seeing is those two games being mashed together.
That might be it. Now, we did see the Cyberpunk Red one last year, actually, at our GAMA preview. I posted pictures of it. It looked cool. This looks better. Like, Edge Runners caught my eye way more than Cyberpunk Red did. And no, it's not a skirmish game. It is a board game, from what I understand. It's a campaign game. There's a series of things that uses their own reaction system. You can play, I guess, all games in their reaction system, all work together. Looking forward to checking this out.
Yeah, the Combat Zone seems to be a thing. I don't know what all that is, but yeah, the Combat Zone system and there's a bunch of different things going on there. So a fun little, sort of filler game that I found from Pet Rock ROC Games is Pizza Rolls. And well, because we're Windsor, so why not?
Yeah.
And this is actually a game where you are trying to discuss with a group of people what kind of pizza to get. This is something that most gamers can come around with. And you're playing conversation cards to try and sort of overpower and make sure that the toppings that you want end up on the pizza when the order gets placed. So
I think I might have lurked this one.
Yes.
Yeah, quite possibly. Again, it's probably going to be a really silly kind of throwaway filler, but sometimes that works. And well, we are Windsor, and we do have pizza at our board game events.
Yeah, you need that. Then you also need the classic Steve Jackson clamshell game, Pizza Wars. So once the pizza shows up, you can actually play a miniature skirmish game with your pizza. That's a deep cut.
All right, I can't help but be just at least a little bit curious about the new 6th edition of Catan. I want to know what's new, what's different. We haven't played it in a dog's age.
Now, the last one on my list is the latest from Whirligig Games. That's Cole Worley's company, who makes designer board games, right? Small print run heavy games. It is very much a niche market. There are extreme fans of their games like John Company and PAX Games and all that. This is what you'd expect from them, a heavier game. But this one is not about commerce in any way. So that's a big diversion. This is Molly House. This is a game about creating joy in the queer community in 1720s London. Players take on the role of gender-defying Mollies, throwing grand masquerades, all while trying to avoid moralistic constables seeking to destroy the community. And I have got to say, my gosh, for a unique theme and an important theme and something worth talking about, congrats, Whirligig.
Yeah, I saw a prototype version of this last year at GAMA Expo, and I was super intrigued. It looked gorgeous. Yeah, I'm super excited about that one. I want to check it out.
So there were a bunch of little games that kind of didn't fit in there. Again, because I'm not going, I wasn't necessarily looking at that. Oh, this is a game that I must get my hands on and look at. I was, things were just catching my eye. I was treating it in many ways like I would if I was walking down a store aisle and perusing boxes. And one that caught my eye, and again, this is a crazy silly one, but from Yellow, is Mime Battle. Now, this is, you are trying to guess the charades, essentially, except you're both playing simultaneously and the words may be related or even the same. So it's sort of charades chaos mode is kind of the description I'm getting from this game. And it's 2 to 12 players. Again, this could be something that again, far enough off in the corner at an event that they're not bothering everyone else in the entire bar, but could be a fun public party event. And then the other thing I found, just as a general rule, possibly because of who we are and what we pay attention to, but trick takers. Lots of trick takers. There was Power Vacuum from Keen Bean, and Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings trick taking from Office Dog. And then just like too many others to name, just trick takers. So many trick takers out there.
Yeah, and to be fair, my original list on this had a bunch of those, and I ended up just taking them off because I'm like, I found enough other stuff to talk about, but man, there's a lot of trick taking games.
And then the one other game I wanted to point out from DeVere was Ace of Spades. And this one caught my eye because I have been playing on Steam Balatro, which people may know is basically you're playing poker hands and you're just trying to score points using poker hands to win. While this is a Balatro style poker game, but it's the mechanic for play. You're using poker games to score either and win either solo or 2-player co-op. You're trying to beat the game by, getting these using poker hands and just channel your magic through poker plays to take out Lord Overkill's minions one by one and descend into hell itself to duel the monster who ruined your life. So again, it's just interesting use of poker mechanics to play a game.
Yeah.
Neat.
Do you have to play Motorhead while playing that with a name like Lord Overkill? I kind of feel you do.
Well, I mean, it's called Ace of Spades, so
Yeah, exactly.
Kinda.
That's what I'm thinking. All right. I know I said I was done, but you know what? We were supposed to record this episode last week, and in the week between when we were going to record this episode and tonight, there were actually more than 30 new games added to the preview list on Board Game Geek. I went through them quickly. The only publisher that really caught my eye and that I want to call out before we wrap up tonight is Capstone Games. Now, the one I'm most excited about from them is called Beyond the Horizons. And that's because of the design team. You've got Dennis K. Chan, Adam Hill, Ben Pinchback, and Matt Riddle. Now, this is a rather heavy civilization game with exploration, expansion, development, production. And it does the thing we loved in Mare Nostrum. This is one of the things that caught my attention is there are multiple endgame triggers. So in this case, it's not when you fulfill one, the person who does 1 of 8 or whatever wins the game. It's when a certain number of them have been met. And that really caught my eye that there is not one way to win. So a civ building game that has that Mare Nostrum thing just immediately intrigued me.
Oh, that checks so many boxes. Sign me up.
Right? Yeah, exactly. The other one Capstone has that I'm curious about is Galileo Galilei. It's an astronomy themed game where you're trying to find the planets and stars that Galileo missed. Now, unfortunately, Board Game Geek at least did not have a lot of info on this one. But again, I generally like Capstone style of games, and they do the big heavy ones and they do the lighter ones, but even the lighter ones usually have a lot of meat to them. So the theme of that has me curious.
So I'm actually surprised because the same designer as Galileo Galilei has the game Tea Garden also coming out from Capstone Games. And to me, it actually surprisingly looked better to me than Galileo Galilei. Whereas this is witnessing the birth of tea in ancient China, and is a meaty three-weight tea garden building game.
Isn't that an older game though? I thought that already existed. Like I'm thinking of something else. I'm visualizing a box.
I think you're thinking of Tang Garden.
Gate. Maybe.
No gate on this. The version.
No, this one. Well, Tea Garden technically came out in 2024.
Well, not in North America anyway. So it's Czech, German, and Polish. This is the Capstone Games edition is coming out in 2025, which is
okay. So they're localizing it.
Yeah.
You got to be at least mildly curious about the whole Renegade doing Heroescape thing. Like, I was surprised that wasn't on your list, Mo.
I had two choices. I still have all my Heroescape. Sorry, all my Heroescape stuff. It's right up there, and I should sell it. I could either dive back into Heroescape and try to collect them all, or I could just give the game a pass this time around. And I made the decision to give it a pass.
Oh yeah,
I also don't play BattleTech currently. Because the best thing about HeroQuest scenery is that it was also the ultimate BattleTech game board. I don't play either of those games. Heroescape's neat. The big thing is how good it looks on the table, right? And to be fair, maybe I should bring one of those games out to our public play events. People probably love it. But it's also very expensive if you want to collect it all. So I guess I could try to rely on our clout and hope we could get review copies. But like, it was the same decision I made with Zombicide, right? I'm like, I like Zombicide. But to really get into Zombicide, you just have to keep buying all the stuff. And I'm like, I could either keep buying all the stuff or I could just sell my copy of Zombicide and just let other people enjoy that game. And I think I did the same thing with Heroescape.
Okay, I don't need you to slide back down the Heroescape rabbit hole. We're good. Forget I ever mentioned
exactly. Sure, we'll take a picture and I'll share the latest set or whatever they're showing off. We did that last time. Actually, it was one of my most popular Instagram posts from GAMA Expo last year. So yeah, we'll share it, but I don't plan on diving back into that game.
So I've just got one more honorable mention I'm going to throw in there. This isn't a new game, but it is getting a second edition. I think it's been out of print for quite a while, and that is Ringo from Steppenspiel. This is a classic, 4 in a row type game, except there's no board. You are playing the rings and the discs, both as each player. So it's a very sort of abstract 2-player version of Foursquare.
Oh, are the rings making the board?
Like, so the rings are where you place, and it's Connect 4 but abstract.
Neat.
It looks interesting. With Koali being our current favorite Connect 4 version. All right, that's it for games, right? And I got to say, that's what most most people are going to be hyped about is hearing about these new games and hearing what we'll probably be talking about for the rest of the year. But there are some other aspects of GAMA Expo that we are excited about. And I know this isn't going to be interesting to everyone, but I am really looking forward to the various educational panels and presentations. The keynote speech last year was fantastic. The opening, got everyone together in the room was really good. And while publishers put on presentations, right? So press release, you get keynotes from Asmodee and things like that. Now, a lot of people tend to think of like the exhibit hall, right? Going to publishers' booths and testing things and touching things and seeing it. That's a small part of GAMA Expo. Like the exhibit hall is only open 2 days out of the 5 days of the event. And one of those days is only a half day with all kinds of presentations and education in the morning. Now, without getting into everything or our day-to-day itinerary or everything I want to send, I just want to note a couple things I'm looking forward to. One is the open play testing area. What they have done this year is they have just given 6 hours and here's a room. If you are a designer, go grab a table and show off your game and get feedback and meet with publishers. And for retailers, this is a great way to see what might be the new hotness next year, right? Or in 2 years. That is really cool. I really enjoyed the open play testing room last year, but it was like a short event in the middle of the afternoon that was so popular they had to get a bigger space for it. Now this year it is set up in the Galt House and running all day Sunday. So what I'm probably going to do is like go to a panel, then go back and play some more play testing, and then go back to a panel, then go grab some food, and then check out what's going on in the play testing room again.
Yeah, I know there's some panels that you want to go to on Sunday, but that is literally my only plan for Sunday. Open play testing all day long. That's
there
it.
You go.
I find that really interesting because especially as a retailer, playtesting games in development is and understanding whether or not they have anything or are going to be something is a real kind of skill. That's a niche skill that I'm sure a lot of retailers probably don't have, because again, that's a lot different than seeing a finished game and being able to figure out whether you can sell that to your market or not.
Mm-hmm. And it's also for publishers, right? This is a chance to sign your game with a publisher for these designers too. So that's also a pretty big aspect of it, especially from the designer's point of view.
Yeah, based on what we saw last year, some of these range from like 99.92% completed games to I have a neat idea to put music notes on some dominoes. Like there was a
some of the other stuff I'm hyped about and I want to check out is there's a panel about tabletop game jobs and career paths in the board game industry, which interests me as someone who would like to move away from just sharing affiliate links and shilling online game stores to something maybe a little more permanent. There's one on using games in an educational setting that I want to attend because I think it'll be very interesting and educational, especially looking at companies like Genius Games and how much we've enjoyed their games. And I think it'd be a good topic for us to talk about on the podcast. There are, of course, retailers and publishers. There's a couple different presentations. There are retailers and publishers working with content creators. And I think those will be interesting to be a fly on the wall. I want to be the content creator there sitting going, what are they telling them that they should be getting from us? So I think that'll be neat. There's a presentation about game cafes and a couple about running events that I think could benefit us for our local gaming events. And a Discord presentation, which hopefully will give me some tips to up engagement on our own server.
Yeah, there are tons of presentations I'm interested in this year. For one, I'm glad there's 2 of us because we get to split up and then compare notes, because a lot of the ones you just listed are ones that I would sit in. Now I don't have to because Mo's going to them, so I get to pick something else, which is good because like in any one given 1 hour segment, there are like 3 to 4 things that I want to be attending and I have to figure out which one to go to. It's kind of making me a little batty. There's a bunch of interesting marketing type stuff. I geek out over that. So stuff about branding and email list building and some neat sounding seminars on inclusivity. There's one about how to work with schools and libraries, all kinds of publisher presentations where we get to hear about new stuff coming out. There's just tons. Like I need to figure out how to be 3 places at once. And then there's also the game nights in the evening, which are epic.
Then the other thing I will be doing is I will be trying to live share some of this information. I don't know if people have noticed, but we are no longer on X, so I will be doing that primarily through Blue Sky. Blue Sky, we are tabletopbellhop.com, at tabletopbellhop.com. That's our verified username. I will making sure I get permission to share everything this year. Last year, some of the presentations I went to at Ends Up Media wasn't supposed to be in. We're going to make sure we have the go ahead, but like when I'm in these presentations, I'll be trying to share as much as I can.
And I believe I'm going to be dropping stuff on Instagram. Will be my social media of choice if you want to follow along.
Sounds great.
All right, well, that is it for our GAMA Expo 2025 preview. As we mentioned at the top of the show, the event will actually be going on when this drops, and you can look forward to a GAMA Expo 2025 recap in a couple of weeks. And now a message from our sponsor, Grand Gamers Guild.
Okay, the big thing Mark wants you all to know about is that the Pledge Manager is still open for late pledges for the recent, hugely successful Holiday Hijinks Master Detective Collection Kickstarter.
Now, we've reviewed all of the currently published Holiday Hijinks game, and every single one of those was a very positive experience. We're always shocked by just how creative each one is and how each plays different from the last, only having 18 cards and presenting so many different puzzles and styles of puzzles. Now, yes, we have our favorites, but there's not a single one in the entire series we did not enjoy playing.
We've even taken a few out to our public play events with sleeves and dry erase markers so other people can try them as well, as given away a few seasonally appropriate gifts, which have been a huge hit.
So the late pledge allows you to pick up a single game or the 3 newest games in a box to hold the entire series for those of you like us who already have been playing along, or you can get the full collection along with the collector's box that will store all of them, which I have to say is kind of cool because right now ours are tucked every which where. I want the box.
There's also a pledge level for game stores and other retailers.
So find a link to the Pledge Manager in the show notes, and remember that while you're waiting for these new games to show up, you can always go to grandgamersguild.com where you can save 10% off any purchase by using the code BELLHOP, BELLHOP.
It's time to jump in the hot air balloon and see how high we can fly in our review of Sandbag from Bezier Games, a trick taker where for the most part, you don't want to take any tricks.
So first off, I got to thank Bezier for hooking us up with a review copy of this modern trick-taking game. Now, Sandbag actually comes from the man behind Bezier, Ted Alspach himself. That's Bezier's founding father and features artwork from Greg Bartlett.
Sandbag plays 3 to 6 players. A game consists of 3 rounds, and each round takes about 10 to 15 minutes to play through. There are some slightly wonky rules to this game that take a bit to get used to, but once you have the flow down, it plays really quick, and that's regardless of the player count.
Now, Sandbag is a trick-taking game of avoiding tricks, manipulating the trump suit, and managing your hand of cards both at the start and during each hand. Component-wise, you get 55 suit cards. That's 11 in 5 different colors and patterns, 10 different rocket, and 6 double-sided reference cards. These come in a nice compact box. The card quality is good, and the iconography is excellent and reinforced by the balloon artwork on each card. The rules are clear enough, but you may want to reread the section on swapping cards more than once to get it down.
So you start a game by adjusting the deck based on your player count as noted in the instructions, then shuffle the entire deck and deal out the entire thing. Every card is in play every game. Each player looks at their cards and then passes 1 card to each of their neighbors, the players on their left and right. Next, each player builds their basket.
Your basket is going to consist of 2 cards face down in front of you, and then 1 or more sandbag cards that are placed sideways face down just below those. At the start of the game, each player gets 1 sandbag. In round 2 and 3, you get an extra sandbag for each 10 points that you have, aka the worse you're doing, the more sandbags you get to place out.
Now, once all players have created these, the 2 basket cards for each player are flipped face up. The most prominent color becomes the trump suit. In the case of a tie, you total the numbers of tying suits, and the highest total becomes the trump suit. If there's still a tie, you play with more than 1 trump.
Now, the player with the highest trump color card starts each round. After that, it's the player who wins each trick who gets the lead, as you've seen in pretty much every trick-taking game ever. When you have the lead, you have a choice. You can play a card from your hand, you can play a sandbag if you have one, or you can play a face-up card from any other player's basket, replacing it with one of the cards from your hand placed face down.
Which is kind of cool. Play then continues around the table, and everyone has to follow suit if they can. If you can't follow suit, then you can play any card. The highest played trump card will win the trick, with the one that's played first breaking any ties. If there were no trump cards played, then the highest played card of the lead suit is going to win the trick.
Now, in general, players will play out of their hand, but they also have the option to play cards from other players' baskets, replacing it with a face-down card from their hand. You can lead with any card in another player's basket. You can play a basket card that matches the lead suit, and you can play any basket card if you have no cards of the lead color, or you swap your last card. Your last card of the lead color for that basket card.
Now, players also have the option to play sandbags. They can be played at any time, even if you have cards in the lead suit. The thing with sandbags, they can never win a trick unless every single player plays a sandbag. In that case, the lead takes the trick.
The final card type we haven't mentioned are the rockets. Rockets make you fly high. They're worth negative points, but can only win a trick if every player plays one. So if everyone puts out a rocket, then the lead player is going to get the trick. You want to win tricks that have rockets in them, as they're going to reduce your score, and the goal in this game is to have the least weight in your basket, aka the lowest points.
At the end of each hand, you re-evaluate trump. You look at all the cards still in players' baskets, and the color most present becomes trump. And ties are broken or shared, just like at the start of the round.
Now, once everyone has played all their cards, you total up your points. Points are bad in Sandbag. They represent the weight you've collected that are in your basket holding you down. Each card you've collected through tricks are worth 1 point. Then any cards you still have left in your basket at the end of the round add their value to your points. And again, the cards go up to 10. Finally, you subtract any points for rockets you were able to collect that round.
At the end of the third round, you total up your points for all 3 rounds, and the player with the least points wins.
The hardest part about all of this is internalizing when and how you can swap cards. The ability to swap your hand with anyone else's face-up cards gives you a lot of control over your hand and makes it easy to void yourself of suits. Added to that, it's also the way you can manipulate the trump color for the next round. This leads to all kinds of interesting decision points and ways to play to try and minimize your score.
Yeah, despite being a pretty traditional trick-taking card game, one I think most trick-taking game fans are going to enjoy, I always feel like I have a lot of control and agency in Sandbag for a card game. It always felt like I had options, and even something that looks like a bad hand can be turned around through clever card play.
Yeah, there's some really interesting ways that you can manipulate what is going to be trump the next hand to your advantage. And having the sandbags to throw away, and there's a lot of interesting decision points, as Sean said, just constantly interesting decisions to be made.
Yeah, unlike a game of, say, euchre, if you get dealt a bad hand, there are things you can do about it. You are not just stuck with the hand you are dealt. You have a lot of freedom to maneuver.
But that said, that means that you have to keep adjusting on the fly because other people are maneuvering too.
Yeah, and that's it, right? There's a lot to think about. And a lot of this has to be done at the starter round setup, like your first decision in the game. You basically get to toss out one or more cards. Your sandbags are like useless, right? You're voiding that card. It's no longer part of that round. And remember, you're dealing out the whole deck. So for people who like perfect information, you're now removing a card from that matrix of cards available that round. And every player is doing that. So card counters are kind of stuck, right? You're like, well, I don't know if there's no 10 or someone put that as their sandbag. Plus, being able to sandbag a card is a great way to be able to not take a trick. And that decision of when to use the sandbag can be huge. Then there's the building your basket part of the game. And honestly, for all the different times we played this game, there doesn't seem to be a right way to do it. And various players do different things. Often players, especially when they're first learning the game, will use it to void themselves of colors. So you make sure that if you get a color you don't have as trump, you can use it to make sure that you don't have to worry about that color anymore, and you can throw away your high card. Because again, you're trying to not take tricks for the most part here. Then there's using it to set the trump. Like if you've got a ton of red cards, if you're playing a traditional game, you're like, I want to make sure trump's red. Well, no, I don't want trump to be red because I don't want to take tricks. So I want to make sure trump's going to be something else. So I might want to throw down like a 10 or an 8 of yellow just to make sure red's not trump. The other things you can do is putting out, say, low cards, because if you get stuck with that card at the end of the round, that's negative points for you. Well, positive points, bad points. It's points. Points are bad. So if I put that 8 out, no one takes my 8, I'm getting 8 points at the end of the round. That's horrible. That's worse than a full hand. That's worse than taking a trick. And what people choose to put in their basket really impacts the rounds. And then there's also, you pass 2 cards to other players. So that's pretty common in a lot of different trick-taking games. But it's another thing to consider before that hand's even started.
Yeah, that whole thing where you're setting those 2 cards face out in front of you and you want people to take them from you. You do not want to be stuck with them at the end of the hand unless you decide to put a rocket there. In which case, someone's probably going to take it, though. But then again, if you put a rocket out in that way, then maybe someone will grab it and you'll have a chance of winning that trick with the rocket. Whereas if you have the rocket and you have to play it out of your hand, the odds of you ever winning that trick are infinitesimally small.
Yes.
And you want to win rockets. So, I mean, like, there's a lot going on.
And I just kind of feel that, like, there's something about how all this combines that makes this feel different from a traditional card game, like something more. It's something more than just a normal trick taker. Like, I feel like every hand you're dealt is a puzzle to be solved. And then that puzzle, you might have the proper thing, but then the play of the other players complicates it. So you're like, oh, all I have to do is play my cards in this order and I'm great. Oh, wait, the trump just changed. Okay, now. And it's that great combination of long-term strategy and tactical reactions to the other players that just gives this game a feel that just, I don't know, to me, it feels like something more than a standard card game.
Granted, we haven't played it a ton, but I feel like each time we play it, it feels different. Really depending on what kind of strategies the other people at the table are adapting, it almost, the game can feel considerably different.
So I think this
another part I like is,
I think this one is interesting because I think it's not as accessible as a lot of the trick-taking games we play. A lot of the trick-taking games, it's like, if you've breathed near euchre, we can teach you this game. You want to be a more competent and capable trick-taking player before you dive into this game. This is not the game you're going to teach to newbies in the genre.
Yeah, and that's why earlier we mentioned the fact you probably want to reread those swapping rules for the baskets a couple times. That there is a bit of a hurdle to learning this game.
Even the first time we demoed this, it just did not click for me. So yeah, there's something that you have to it has to click, and then once it does, you're like, everything here makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's really the biggest downfall to this game is the learning curve, right? Like, our first game was terrible due to a bad explanation of these concepts. Bad enough that we weren't even looking forward to reviewing this game. It was like, oh my gosh, what did we take home here? It wasn't until actually reading the rules myself that it clicked. And I found that I needed to explain the part multiple different ways for people to get it. Like, I'll explain swapping cards, and I can generally look at someone's face and go, no, they don't have it. They don't get it. I need to explain this a different way. Okay. No, they still didn't get it. Okay. Maybe we'll do a sample hand. And like, honestly, I'm at the point now because of that confusion with those being able to play cards out of other players' baskets. That's the hard part here. Or the sandbags, right? Throwing in a sandbag wherever you want. I actually kind of want everyone to watch a round. Like if we're at a public play event, it'd be like, here, watch them finish a round of sandbag. Now sit down and play, because you'll probably get it at that point. Or if I've got no games currently playing, I'll play round 1. And we've talked about this before. We'll reset. I won't play all 3 rounds. I'll just play round 1 and then go, okay, everyone get it. Now you get the swapping. Now you get how the trump works. Okay, let's now start. We're going to do another 3 rounds and total our scores.
And the game has these great reference cards, but if you have not actually figured out the game yet, they are bewildering. So you need to hide them and not even let people look at them, because what happens is you hand out the reference cards, everyone immediately picks it up, starts reading it, and they just get more and more confused as they're trying to figure out what you're talking about while looking at the reference card. That is what happens, right?
Yes.
I'm like, you need to just hide them in the bottom of the box, and you only are allowed to touch them once you've figured out what's going on.
Now, getting back to positives, I like the golf scoring and the way it ties to the theme, right? Like I found one of the things too when we were first taught the game was very much, oh, it's a trick taking game, blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, I always explain that no, these are hot air balloons, right? You want to go up higher, and you don't want to collect sandbags, right? So your tricks, you flip them over, and they're on the sandbag side. And if you think of it that way, it helps to remind you that you don't want to win tricks. And while attaching a rocket to a hot air balloon is going to definitely help it go higher in the sky, right? So you want to collect the rockets. And even just like when you toss a sandbag into a trick, it just kind of feels like you're doing a bit of take that. You're like, here, take a sandbag. There's so many trick taking games out there about trying to take the most tricks, or setting a bid amount where you're trying to get a set number of tricks. It's nice to play a game where for the most part, you don't want to take a trick. It's only if the rockets are up that if you do, and honestly, it's pretty hard to play to collect them. You generally just have to be in the right position and like, oh, I'm the last player to play and someone had to throw rockets. Good, I get to take that.
So I don't know. I was thinking at one point, I thought you were going for a strategy which was specifically to try and hold back and win certain tricks. And I thought you had built a hand in a basket around that. And then watching you do that, I had all kinds of ideas. Maybe I was wrong. I remember that's what I thought you were doing at the time. And I meant to ask you about it later. I was like, oh, that's a neat strategy. But yeah.
Now, another downfall of this complexity is you got to pay attention, right? This is like Sean kind of said, it's like a serious card game, right? This is not a casual card game you play over drinks. And we found when playing this, you don't get the table talk and the ribbing and the euchre play, right? Where you can be talking about the kids, what they did on the weekend while you're playing. This tends to be, the conversation tends to stay light while people focus on the game. Like this is the opposite of a beer and pretzels card game. This is not a Deadly's laugh out loud. This is a game where player skill is going to have an impact on your final score. And honestly, it's something I really like to find in a trick-taking game, liking those heavier games where you need to focus and where you can outplay other players, but that's not going to be for everyone.
Yeah, all of that is probably why I really dig this one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually just learned a new term, Jatwat, which is just another trick taker with a twist. And that's not what this game is.
No, exactly.
There are a lot of games out there that are just another trick taker with a twist. But this isn't that. This is multiple twists, as it were.
It's got at least 4 twists.
Yeah, there's multiple twists in there that really, again, elevate it away from that, sit around, chat beer and pretzels with your euchre buddies.
So I bet you if you played enough Sandbag, a group could get to that point where they played it enough. Because I find I'm now playing it more casually than I used to, just because I'm getting more used to the game. Especially when you start realizing like some of the card counting, you can overthink it. And it's actually played to a detriment because you have to realize some of those cards are gone, especially in round 3. If everyone's got 20, 30 points each because you're terrible to each other, all those people have 3 or 4 sandbags to throw in. I'm like, I no longer know what's in the dang deck. You throw out a flipping 1 and you end up taking the trick and you're like, what the heck? I threw out a 1 of yellow. None of you have yellow. We're playing 5 players. Yep, sure enough. None of them has yellow. That's the kind of thing that happened in this game.
Yeah, and I did find that we played it a bunch close together, back to back. And by the end, like it was getting a little more chatty and more casual because everyone just had,
You get it once you get to that level. Just there's a learning curve, right? Now, I think if you are a trick-taking fan, if you grew up playing trick-taking games and you played multiple different trick-taking games and you're always looking for a new trick-taking game and a new twist on it, you really need to check out Sandbag. Like the reason I love this game is because I played tons of trick-taking games. And this is like one of the more challenging ones and the more twists. Like Sean said, this is not just one twist. There's a lot going on here. And to me, I find that extremely engaging.
No, it's a bag of twists. It gives you a lot to think about.
Now, as Sean kind of mentioned earlier, I don't think this would be a great modern trick-taking game for someone who hasn't played a lot of modern trick takers, or at least played multiple different Hoyle games. Like if you meet someone and they're like, "Oh yeah, I love euchre. I played it in high school." I don't think I'd want to throw Sandbag at them. I just think it be a little too overwhelming. There is a definite learning curve here. And like I said, I almost want anyone who has played a traditional trick-taking game sit and watch around before jumping in.
Yeah, with a lot of these, modern trick takers, I always think, oh, we could get your mom to play this game. I could not see your mom playing Sandbag.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Now, here's the one that I think is the most fascinating, the most interesting. And here's the problem is they're probably not listening to this review if they're not already fans of trick takers, is I want the people who like puzzly Euro games to play this. I want the people who like Lost Ruins of Arnak and figuring out combos and reacting to what other players are doing and squeaking out that moving one up on the temple. I think they're going to really like Sandbag. It's like it's the trick taker for heavy gamers or medium to heavy Euro gamers. And that's who I want to play this game with. I want to sit down and play Sandbag with Charles. And I want that group of gamers is who I really think needs to try this game out. Like that's the hidden gem. Like, hey, Euro gamers, come play this trick taker. Trust me, it's not just euchre.
Yeah, I think that's totally accurate. I do want to sit down and play it with a bunch of heavy gamers. There is something just so satisfying about holding back your sandbags and then knowing that you are guaranteed to toss a trick every time, right? There's so many parts about this game that are infinitely enjoyable.
And then you realize everyone else had in their sandbags, and then you get a handful of sandbags in the last round because you happen to get the lead.
That's the playing chicken aspect.
I think Jeff and Charles would be, good, because Jeff is so into card games right now and all the different card games and all the different variances. And then Charles is Charles. That could be the team. Well, for now, it's time to let the balloons soar and see how high they get. We've reviewed a lot of trick-taking games here on the podcast, and we don't expect that to change as there are new ones coming out every year. What's your favorite modern trick taker? Is it one we've covered in the past or something we should check out?
Tell us about it in the comments wherever you found this review. And at the same time, while you're there commenting, be sure to like, thumbs up, and share this review so it gets seen by more people who may really dig Sandbag. And if you are a card gamer and you know those Euro gamer friends, be sure to send them here because I think they would really enjoy this one.
People around the world love to celebrate holidays and special events with fireworks. Well, tonight we're celebrating real-time board games with a review of Skyrockets, Festivals of Fire.
Now, for this review, I'm just going to call it Skyrockets. The Festivals of Fire applies for this whole review, okay? So Skyrockets was designed by Charlie McCarran and is an update and re-implementation of the game Kites, which is by a different designer, Kevin Hamano. Now, this new game features very striking fireworks artwork by Silly Jelly and was published in 2023 by Floodgate Games, who we have to thank for both kidnapping Deanna into a demo game, which brought the game to our attention, and for providing us with a review copy.
Yeah, what's noticeable here is that Skyrockets is not my kind of game at all. First off, it's a cooperative game, and while I do enjoy some co-op games, I prefer competitive play. Next, it's real time, which just means anxiety for me. And last, it has a slight dexterity element, so that's 3 strikes for me right there. Although I do admit I had some fun when I was roped into playing that demo game.
Now, thankfully, not every gamer is like Deanna, and some love the stress of a real-time cooperative game and adore games that use sand timers. This particular one plays 2 to 5 players, with games being nice and quick, lasting maybe 15 minutes each round. That said, there's a good chance you're going to want to play Skyrockets multiple times in a row.
Now, your goal in Skyrockets is to set off the most impressive fireworks display you can and not disappoint the crowd. Now, this is mainly done by playing cards and flipping sand timers, trying to keep them all running at once, except for one, which you need to flip a set number of times to win. And actually, that's the big change between the original game Kites and Skyrockets. And Kites was all about just keeping the timers going as long as you could, whereas this is about getting one specific timer flipped the number of times.
The main component in Skyrockets is a set of sand timers, each of which lasts a different amount of time. And that's something we totally missed at first when we were learning the game. It just wasn't making sense. And then we finally figured out, these are all actually different. It's not that, it needs to be tapped. It's running just fine. Next is a deck of 60 fireworks cards, each of which shows 2 different colors, which match the colors of the sand timers. And note that there are symbols there as well as colors to help with color blindness. Another cool surprise we didn't know when doing the demo is that you get a 30-card event deck, which basically turns Skyrockets into a campaign game, with each event having its own special rules and different setup instructions. Along with this, you also get some tokens that let you track how well you were doing, start player tokens, etc. The last thing worth noting is there's an encore envelope that you aren't meant to open until you were able to complete all 30 of the events. So quite curious to know what's in there, and I'm never going to personally see it. And there are score pads, score pad-like sheets for tracking your progress on the campaign mode.
So playing a game of Skyrockets starts with picking which event you want to play. Of course, we recommend starting with event number 1 and making your way through the deck one by one, but there's nothing stopping you from playing your favorite event or drawing one randomly.
Now, each event card determines the player's hand size as well as how to set up the timers. This will include indicating which timer is your countdown timer. That's the one you're going to need to flip a set number of times in order to win the event. Now, events after the first one will include additional rules like different hand sizes, having to stack timers on top of each other, limited communication rules, and a lot more. It's actually kind of shocking how many different ways to play the game are included in this box just through that event deck.
You start the round by flipping all of the timers, and then the first player, which is usually the last player to have seen fireworks unless there's different instructions on that particular event card, is going to play 1 card from their hand and then flip over the 2 timers that are shown. They then draw another card, and then the next player plays a card, flips timers, and then draws a new card, etc.
If when doing this a timer runs out, flip one of the crowd tokens over to the upset side. If at any point all 3 crowd tokens are flipped, your team has lost the game. Everyone got bored and went home.
Now, all of this is true for the non-countdown timers. Remember, there's always 1 countdown timer. Flipping the countdown timer is how you win. It starts on a little track that starts on spot 4. You can only flip the countdown timer when it's empty, when the sands run out. When flipped, it gets moved down to the next spot on the track. So it goes down to the 3. And then when it runs out again, it can be flipped again and moved to the 2 and so on. Now, if it manages to run out on the last spot before the crowd's given up, you won. Now, another thing to note about the countdown timer is if you play a card showing the countdown timer while it's still running out, you just ignore it. You just flip the other card or the other timer on that card and continue playing.
Now, the thing is, that's the basic rules. Every event after that first intro event is going to introduce additional complications. We found discovering these as we played to be a lot of fun, so we don't want to spoil anything. But expect things like not being able to talk to each other, having much smaller hand sizes, having to play random cards from the deck, having to trade cards with other players before playing them, and having to stack the sand timers, nope, and more.
When you complete an event and win, you can record your score on the included ScorePad event tracker. Your score will either be 1, 2, or 3 stars based on how many fans were disappointed in your show.
Now, while you can try to get 3 stars on every event, I don't recommend that because this game is hard, like wicked evil hard. On our first few games, I was like, what did they do at that demo to make you win? Because it felt nearly impossible. But I remember they won that demo game. And it wasn't until like 3 to 5 games later, I don't remember exactly, that we realized we were doing something wrong or missing something. It was a game changer. And that's the fact that different timers had different times. I actually thought they were all the same amount of time. Since figuring that out on our own, our win rate has been much better. So now when I teach the game, I am certain to point this out. I share the actual times for the timers and give people a heads up. Because in general, when you're playing, don't worry too much about the purple timer. It's 80 seconds long, over a minute. Trust me, in a real-time game, That's a long period of time. Just try to sit still for 80 minutes without talking. Or 80 seconds. Sorry, not 80 minutes. It's over a minute long. So yes, sure, flip it now and then when it gets really low. Or you know what? In the middle of a round, just flip it back and forth, and you probably never have to worry about it. Once you realize, hey, I don't have to worry about the purple on my cards, things get a little easier. Then you're going to look, and you probably can look at the next one, right? The next one down, and now I have to flip that as much. But you know what? The red one and the orange one, they run out quick. Red's 30 seconds, orange is 40 seconds. That right away, watch the red and orange. That's what I tell every new group I teach this game. Watch the red and orange. Watch the red and orange. Make sure you hold on to some red cards just in case, because someone's going to have to flip those red and orange. And knowing that will help you to manage your hands better, manage your team better, and know what to expect.
There's still a bit of a learning curve there. Like, you need to play this game once or twice to figure it out. And to me, what really showed this is, like, our eldest daughter, Gwen, she plays a lot of games with us. Like, she's a very competent gamer. And so she picked this game and chose it for family game night and wanted to play Skyrockets. And then we got it to the table, and she was instantly overwhelmed by it, to the point that she was almost in tears. I felt guilty. And I was like, okay, we're going to stop right now. Do you want to be playing this? And she insisted that she wanted to keep playing. And maybe 10, 15 minutes later was really into the game and having a good time. But it gave her that anxiety that I can't deal with. It's why I don't enjoy the game to such a high level when you were first introducing it to her, that she looked really unhappy. I was like, this is supposed to be fun, guys. What's going on here?
Yes.
Yeah, I have to say the anxiety is real for a lot of people. And it's really the real time, even more than the dexterity. But when you combine that dexterity and the real time, it becomes sort of a next level. It's like, if I could reach out and hit a button that would flip the timer over, that would be one thing. But having to manually manipulate these things in a hurry in real time with pressure on and everyone sort of expecting you and waiting on you, there are issues with that are problematic.
So my biggest problem with that is the fact that it is cooperative, right? So I can't just laugh it off as, I suck, I ruined my own game. I've also ruined your game. And I think that's also what was upsetting Gwen during that first play, because Mo was not upset, but was talking, like, you get into the game, you're like, oh my God, flip the thing, right? And she just, like, froze and got upset about it. Now, what amused me was, about 10 minutes later, she was yelling at her dad, telling him what to do, and was getting right into it, right? So I said, there's just that, you have to sort of get over it and figure out what the game requires.
So one thing I didn't even realize, honestly, until writing this review and getting ready, was that this was a re-implementation of kites. I've never played kites. Now, the big thing that changed is that countdown timer, right? Like, kites was literally just about keep the kites up as long as possible, record your score. Look, we kept them up for 10 minutes. We kept them up for 5 minutes, and so on. And the events. I like this because this seems like 100% an improvement, because the countdown timer gives you an attainable goal, making the game like infinitely more replayable, right? You're not just trying to play as long as possible. You're trying to actually get things done. And then you have the events, which change up each different round, making it much more interesting and variable game. And that is one of the things that really draws me to it. And what it reminds me of is the trick-taking card game series, The Crew, with its 50 different missions. Now you get 30 in this, not 50, but it just, the rule restrictions and mechanics really remind me of the same kind of things from The Crew. And I think anyone who enjoyed The Crew games might want to check this out, as long as they can handle the stress of a real-time game with timers.
It does really remind me of The Crew. That's a great comparison, except I will play The Crew.
Yeah, I like The Crew. I'm not the hugest fan of Skyrockets, not because it's a bad game, just because it's not for me.
Yeah. And as you can kind of tell, with at least the group of 3 of us, we have not finished this game. I don't know what's in the Encore envelope. We actually talked about, like, how many times should we play this? Like, do I need to play the full campaign before reviewing it? Like, should I peek inside that envelope? We decided not to. We decided to talk, like, I played this game more than 10 times. It's not something that I haven't experienced a lot of. But as for winning, that doesn't happen often. And while, like, Deanna not enjoying it and Sean not enjoying the stress. Now, that said, where this game's been a big hit is with some other players. This is a game I often pack for our public play events. One of the things I do really like about it is how small a footprint it is. It's a small box. It's easy to just toss in with everything else I'm bringing, right? It doesn't take up a lot of room. And this is a game that is great for a physical event because of that. Flip the red. No, do that, right? That yelling, the intensity, how much people get into it is great for anyone hosting a public play event, because then the strangers, the non-gamers who happen to be at your venue are like, well, what's going on over there? Right? Well, what's happening? What are you playing? And I love any game that gets that type of attention.
I want to clarify that this is in no way a bad game. It is just a bad game for Deanna. I actually think it's a really cool, unique game, and I've seen a lot of people having a lot of fun with it. I can acknowledge it. It is a great game, just not for me.
Now, there is one issue with the game that is not related to any of that. Something that is actually, I would say, a bit of a problem with the game. And it's something I do want to touch on before we wrap things up. And that's finding where to play this game, finding a physical place. Now, the demo game Deanna got roped into was at one of those con event, tall standing round top tables, maybe 2 feet in diameter, with all the players standing around it where everyone could reach everything. And it was perfect for this game. But the game becomes a lot less portable if I got to bring a specific table with me every time I want to teach it. Everyone could reach everything. It was great, but that's not the case on your standard dining room table, and worse on a larger game room table. Like, can you imagine playing Skyrockets on our 8x4 table with the timers in the middle? Like, there's no way. You need everyone to be able to reach the timers and to be able to flip them, as well as to be able to draw cards. You don't want people reaching over the timers, knocking them down. And trust me, that's terrible. You do just stand them back up. Like, this isn't a dexterity game. Oh, the timer fell over, you lose. But you do have to spend the time to stand them back up. Now, one thing that does help is lower player count. And I think that has a lot to do with why the Board Game Geek has it rated as best with 3. I think is for that reaching things and not getting in each other's way. The other thing that will help is have everyone sit on the same side of the table. We actually have a full episode about games best played on the same side of the table. This could be one of those, or at least around one corner. But just in general, I've had a hard time finding a good space to set up this game.
Yeah, I really recommend, if possible, a high top standing table, no more than 3 feet in diameter. This allows those players to move and see and reach, as well as, back away if necessary. Standing up to play this game can have some real benefits. And again, because it's not a long game, because it's only going to take you 15, 20 minutes for a round, it's not awkward for that, assuming that nobody has any accessibility issues. If that's not an option, and admittedly, it's something that most people probably don't have handy, something like a kitchen island or another area that you can stand around and reach all those components could work really well. If you are sitting, something like coffee shop tables, again, 3 foot or smaller in diameter to give you that reach, so that everyone can sort of get involved.
Now, of course, I think we've already made this pretty clear. The big thing for people, if you're going to like this or not, is if you like real-time cooperative games. If that's the kind of thing you enjoy, great. But this game is stress in a box for some people, and many people don't find that fun. Like Deanna said, my oldest daughter was almost in tears the first time we played, but she kept wanting to play. Like, I guess she liked that feeling of stress. She liked the tension and the feeling like you're messing up. Once she started to win, right? Like, once you start doing well, the game becomes more enjoyable. I've had people at public play events tell me, I absolutely love this. This is fantastic. And I can't believe how energized I am. I'm ready. Let's go do something. And I've had people tell me, hell no, as soon as I say you have to flip a sand timer.
Yeah. If us discussing this makes you feel anxious, if you do not like the idea of stress in a box, this game is probably not for you.
Yeah. Though I kind of want everyone to try it once, right? Because it has surprised some people who thought they would hate it. I know people who love similar games like Fuse, though, that didn't like this. So it's just kind of, I think this is one of those games that's really hard to judge what your feelings will be by reading the instructions, listening to a review, or watching a how to play. Like, I think this is a game where you have to be part of the experience to really understand what that experience is.
And yeah, again, I think that was highlighted by that game with Gwen, where we thought, understood what she was getting into. We described the game to her, and then clearly she did not understand what she was getting into until she was playing it. Yeah.
But then she loved it once she got it.
Yes, exactly.
Now, another thing I will say, and again, this is just based on research. I never played kites, but from what I can tell, if you enjoy kites, just go buy this because this seems to be like kites made good. This sounds like a fantastic upgrade and it's going to be more replayable, more engaging. You're going to like having different missions to play instead of just keeping the timers going.
And with that finale, we're going to wrap up our review of Skyrockets from Floodgate Games, a game that's definitely not for me, but that I can't deny has some appeal. I've seen tables having a great time playing this game for hours, laughing, screaming, and shouting. So there's definitely something there.
While fireworks are one way to celebrate, another is putting on your favorite swag, like one of our Tabletop Bellhop t-shirts, a hoodie, or perhaps brewing your next cup in a Bellhop's First Law mug. Find this and other Bellhop merch at tabletopbellhop.com/merch. Well, that was the double bell.
That means our shift's coming to an end and we're going to have to lock the lobby doors.
Before we start locking things down, let's take a moment to thank a selection of our Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patrons. Ron F. Thank you, Ron.
Brian Van Beek. Thank you, Brian.
William Fisher. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew Dacey.
Danielle and Owen Thomas. Thank you. Always great to see both of you in the chat room tonight. That's awesome.
Sean P. Kelly. Thanks, Sean. Well, your first stop to finding us should be at tabletopbellhop.com, but you can find us all over the web as Tabletop Bellhop, one word, and on your podcatcher of choice as the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast.
Now, I know tonight was a bit of a con preview episode about GAMA Expo, and I know when we get back, we're going to have to do a GAMA recap, and then we're going to be going to Adam, and we're probably going to do an Adam recap. But honestly, we are here for you to answer your gaming and game night questions. It's not always just about us. It just happens to be the start of con season. So if you do have a question for us, you can send that to questions@tabletopbellhop.com or go over to our webpage and click on Ask the Bellhop at the top of the page.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. If you like what you heard, we would love it if you would post a review on iTunes or Spotify. And while you're there, subscribe to get notified of upcoming episodes.
That's all for us tonight.
For the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I'm Sean.
I'm Deanna.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you.
And game on.